collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 168 of Ask Bossk Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them for you. So if you do have a question for next week's episode, you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave your question down below and hopefully I'll get round to answering it. Just a few things to go through before we get onto this week's questions. First of all, I did hit 25,000 subscribers, which is awesome. So thank you so much to everybody that has subscribed over the last 5 years, basically. You have contributed to that 25k and it's a massive milestone. And because of that, I will be doing a giveaway. I will be giving away a vintage collection Endor bunker and a speeder bike pack. Now, this will be on a future video, probably in the next week or so. A whole giveaway video, so be sure to subscribe and to hit the notification bell so you do not miss that video. I also have something for my personal collection which I will be giving away to my Patreon supporters and channel members, but you know, the Scout Trooper, speeder bike and the Endor bunker will be available for anybody that watches the channel to enter that giveaway. I think they're two pretty awesome prizes, I do say so myself, and I hope you do agree. Talking of Patreon supporters and channel members, I just want to say a big thank you and a big welcome to Charles Simmons, I Run at Sharks, Scott McManigal and HMS Bismarck for joining up and supporting the channel, and Jesse Fleming, who has upgraded to Trandoshan Warrior. So thank you very much. It really does help the channel. It helps me keep things running and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure I've gone through everything that I wanted to talk about before we get onto the questions. At least I think I have. I've probably forgotten something. But with all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy the video, hit the like button down below and let's get straight onto the first question. Watson Van E says, great vid Bossk. My question for next week is, do you use flight stands for your figures? By that I mean, do you use stands to make your jetpack figures look like they're flying? And if you do, what brand are they? Thanks and keep up the great work. So that isn't something that I do right now, but that's more to do with space, I would say. I think it's a pretty cool thing to do. I know they do that a lot with Marvel Legends. In fact, some of the figures actually come with those stands, don't they? But there's nothing that I can recommend. I don't think there's anything out there for Star Wars, but there are some customizers that, you know, make those sorts of things. And there is a link in the description below to eBay to one that I found that you might want to try. And actually, while we're on the subject of stands, I do get questions all the time asking me where I get my stands from for figures. These ones in particular here, they look like this with the Star Wars written on them. I'm pretty sure they are knockoffs, but basically, every time I talk about these, I can never find them on eBay. Well, I have found them now. There is listings on eBay for these. There is a link in the description below. You can buy 10, 20, 30, 50 of them. Take a look at that link. You know, as I said, they are from China. I think they're knockoffs. They're not going to be official, but they do work for 3.75 inch figures. Obviously, some figures have different peg holes to others, but in the main, most of my figures get to stand on these, which are pretty cool. So check those out. JP Black 79 says, hey BB, I've been enjoying your videos for a long time. Thank you, buddy. Question for next week. On the Mando N1 Starfighter, do you think it will have a swappable Grogu/droid port? I am wondering this myself and I can't wait for them to reveal it, but it all depends on how early they got the concepts for that, basically. Because as we saw, when he first got it, it had the dome for Grogu to sit in, and then in Mando Season 3, we know that R5D4 goes in it. I'm hoping that that little dome will just be, you know, detachable and a droid will be able to fit in there. But as I say, it all depends on how early they got those concepts for it and whether they've included it. My fingers are crossed to say that they have included it, because obviously they're waiting and waiting to bring this thing out. It's been rumoured for quite a while, so hopefully it does include that, and you know, you can display it whichever way you like. Nicholas Hallow says, hey Boss, question for next week. Are we likely to get a action orientated Padme in TVC like the Naboo fighter with blasters from the Phantom Menace line? Not a fan of Salt Shaker Queen, and as a Clone Wars fan, I see Padme as a more dynamic character. I minimised my collection a few years ago and now only collect main or very iconic characters, so find it frustrating that we are getting relatively unnecessary reissues while there are still big characters missing, but maybe that's just me. Cheers. So I don't think we'd probably see the one that's from in the Naboo hangar. I think if they were ever going to do Padme, then they'd give us the one that they released in the Black Series 3.75 inch. They've re-released the Anakin from that line, as we know, with a new cloak and everything. And I tend to think if they were going to do Padme, they would use that one. And I wouldn't really have a complaint about that one. It's an alright figure, and I think it'd look great on a vintage style card back. Bill Paulk says, "Hi BB, I have a question. From your Kenner collection, which figure was your favourite pickup, and what is the story behind why it was your favourite? For me, it was the blue Snaggletooth because I wasn't looking for it and just happened upon it at an old antique shop." Yeah, that's pretty lucky, mate. Well done for that one. I think for me, I've got 3 here that I'm holding. I'm just going to show you this one very quickly. So the first one is the Biker Scout. You can see he's a little bit yellow. This one, because of the story behind it, this one I actually picked up in the early 90s in a comic shop. They were all bagged, and it was like, you know, wow, Star Wars figures. I used to collect, you know, I used to play with these as a kid. And this is like kind of the first figure that sort of got me, you know, back into collecting, as it were, or starting a collection of Star Wars figures as an adult, because I thought, you know, these things are obviously collectible, the nostalgia. This is the early 90s, remember? So I think I picked him up for about £5. You know, he was mint at the time. He's gone a little bit yellow now, but yeah, it's got to be the Biker Scout. And then these two, purely because these two, you know, they're pretty expensive ones. There's your blue Snag. These two were gifted to me by channel subscribers, which I just couldn't believe at the time. You know, just unbelievable generosity, you know, sort of sending me these as gifts. So these will always remain very, very special to me. Michael Hines says, question for next week: would you be interested in more theme park based vintage collection figures? Would the promise of exclusive vintage collection figures coax you out to Galaxy's Edge or even the Galactic Star Cruiser? There's a few characters from the park that I like, and the captain from the hotel would actually be a neat figure. I've got to say, buddy, no, I would not like that. I really don't like it when they make figures exclusive to somewhere that's really hard for the majority of people to get. I think there's a Droid Factory figure that you can get when you go on that Star Cruiser thing, and you know, people are already sort of scalping it on eBay and things like that. So I'm not for that. And yeah, I've got to say that I'm really interested in the characters that are mainly in live action and some of the animated stuff, rather than like just a random character at the parks, I've got to say. And it wouldn't really coax me into going. Like, I've been to Galaxy's Edge, I really enjoyed it, and I want to go again. And it, you know, it wouldn't be the fact that there's an exclusive figure there that would sort of make my mind up about that. I think I just want to go anyway. P Diddy 82 says, "Hi boss, question for next week. Talking about Squidhead, I think a vintage collection version of him would be hugely popular choice amongst the community and you personally. With that in mind, would it annoy you if his soft goods were moulded plastic? I think part of the appeal of the vintage Kenner line was that so many characters had soft goods. Would you be happy just to get Squidhead figure no matter the clothing material, or do you think he must have soft goods? For me, soft goods, please." Yeah, I'm with you. I think he really does need to have soft goods, and especially when you look at Bib Fortuna here. So I've put the vintage Squidhead and the vintage collection Bib Fortuna, because I believe that if they were to do Squidhead, then he would probably share something similar from the waist down. They would probably resculpt his belt, and he would need a soft goods cape, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Some people might want a moulded cape, but for me, I think, you know, because the Kenner one had soft goods, I would want the vintage collection one to follow suit. And as I say, looking at what they did with Bib, which is one of my favourite figures, by the way, fantastic. Yeah, they could do something similar to that. Channel member Blake Kemp says, "Another great episode. Thanks, Tim. Question for next week: do you still pick up the odd Lego set? I had massively toned down my Lego buying, but picked up the Mando and Boba helmets and will be getting the clones too. Cheers, mate." Actually, I picked up my first Lego Star Wars set for a very long time just the other day. I included it in a pickups video from my Tungori sort of haul just the other day. You may have seen that video already, and yeah, it's the Leia Bouche helmet. I just had to have it. It looks awesome. But that's been the only one that I've got in a very, very long time. Channel member Nino Brown says, question for next week: would you or the community be upset at the Mando ship being a HasLab to get all of the ship's features, rotating wings on multiple axes and trooper drop feature? It will be a large, complicated vehicle. Also, when it sat next to the Razor Crest, it was similar size. The downside is that it's one and done. Good show as always. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think you're talking about the gauntlet that we were talking about the other day, Bo-Katan's ship, essentially. I personally think that they can do that outside of HasLab. It would be a newly tooled ship, so it probably would be, you know, north of £120 stroke dollars, I would imagine. We did get Poe Dameron's ship that was newly tooled, so, and how much, I can't even remember how much that was, probably a similar price. So I think they could probably do it, you know, in that price range, include a figure with it and what have you. I wouldn't really want that to be a HasLab. I think they need to go bigger and grander, you know, personally. Aquilish Doug says, some of my favourite releases last year were retail exclusives, including the Walmart Stormtrooper, Bespin Guards, Target Mando Season 2 figures, and Amazon Kenobi. Question for next week, with the relentless slew of new media and certain anniversaries, do you foresee more figures being released this way in 2023 beyond clones and FET repaints? So I think you're talking about those ARC Troopers and the loads of different FETs that we've had, the comic book FETs and everything. I personally think that with the remainder of this year, there still will be some other exclusives from Walmart or Target. I'm not too sure if there'll be original trilogy like the Bespin Guards and, you know, like finish the 96 and things like that. But those deluxe packs, maybe we could see more of those, perhaps with like you know, smaller accessories and things like that. I think there's more to come. Eric Quartez says, question for next week, in the Star Wars celebration that you'll attend, what TVCs you think will be revealed? I've got to say, I really do not know, but I think just looking at how it's going, I hope and think that we'll see the M1 Starfighter. It's been pipelined, and I think that would be the perfect opportunity for them to reveal it. People are talking about a HasLab. It's been ages since we've had a HasLab. Maybe we'll hear something about a future HasLab there as well. But in terms of individual figures, your guess is as good as mine. I really don't know. There's still lots to come this year, so you know, they're going to have to reveal it at some point. And what better time to do it than at Celebration? My name is not Rick. Congrats on 25k. Question for next week, would you ever switch to loose collecting due to spacing issues, or would you just end up rotating your collection? Thanks. Well, at the moment I do collect both. I have loose and carded. Every single figure that comes out, I would like one carded and loose, and I'm picking up older loose figures as well to go with my collection. Plus I have my full run of vintage Kenner figures loose as well, so I do both. At the moment I do have to rotate card backs that I want on my wall, and a lot of my loose collection is in tubs, but hopefully I'll be getting a new collection room very soon. Hopefully by August it may be completed. Actually maybe a bit longer than that, but you know, maybe October it'll be fully complete, painted and decorated and shelves up and all that kind of thing. So that's when I'll be able to, you know, display everything that I have. Danny E says, question for next week, with the Biker Scout packed in with the speeder bike, is there any reason not to think that they might do a 4-pack in the future? I want to have a few, but obviously not buy several speeder bikes. Thanks for giving me my TVC fix weekly, as I often go back and watch older videos too. I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it? Because obviously I think when this figure was revealed, some people weren't happy that it wasn't a completely newly tooled figure. I think we're kind of stuck with it, and if that's the case, then I would like them to do a 4-pack. And the trouble is with those 4-packs is that they often like to include one different figure, don't they? And, you know, with the Stormtroopers, you had like the captain with the pauldron and what have you. Could they do that with a Scout Trooper? I can't even remember seeing a Scout Trooper that's a different rank to the others. I may be completely missing something here, but to me all the Scout Troopers always look the same in Return of the Jedi. I haven't really looked that closely, to be honest, but to me they always look the same. So could they do a 4-pack with just 4 Scout Troopers? I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But yes, certainly just having the one with the speeder bike, it's a tough one. We don't really want to be buying, you know, 10 speeder bikes to get ourselves 10 Scout Troopers. So hopefully that is something that they will do. Middle-aged Kiwi man collecting Star Wars figures. Kiora Tim, congrats on 25,000 subscribers. This is well deserved and reflects your hard work and great content. Cheers, Jason. I do appreciate that, buddy. Really do. Question for next week. What is the one thing you are most proud of about your channel? And is there anything you regret or would do differently? Thanks for all you do for the TVC community. Yeah, I don't think I've really got any regrets necessarily. You know, at the end of the day, it's a hobby of mine doing this. It's a hobby of mine collecting TVC and talking about it and making videos about it and what have you. And I guess the most thing that I am proud of is you know, how much the channel has grown, because it's definitely something that I never expected 4 or 5 years ago when I started the channel. It's certainly not what I expected. So I guess I'm really proud of that, but I think the main thing I'm proud about is the people that I've met along the way. Your good self, Jason, and loads of other people in the community. Chris Bantherskull, John Miko, Jason from Yakface. You've got Nick, Only One Kenobi. Just, you know, I've got so many good friends from doing this, and I think that's probably the best thing about it. Matthew Martin says, could they do a HasLab Mythosaur as the Mando series gets so many things? I've got to say I doubt it. I don't think their record of large beasts in HasLab form has gone too well. And I think when they look at the vintage collection and they think about HasLabs, it'll always be something that involves multiple figures. Personally, that's what I think anyway. So whether it's like a large playset or a vehicle, something that lots of figures can interact with. And I don't think a giant beast sort of, you know, qualifies as that necessarily. So I really don't think that's a possibility, my friend. You know, I wish they would just release creatures and beasts in the main line, but, you know, we're not quite there yet with the vintage collection. Alfred Pedneu says, what are the odds that we get 12 new action figures from the 2023 March Madness in 2025? To be honest, buddy, I think that question should be rephrased as, how many figures from the 2023 March Madness are we going to get in 2023? Because I think you'll be surprised. You know, I think it's going to be a good year for the things that the community want and have wanted over the last year or so. So we'll have to see what happens in the remainder of the year, but I've got a feeling there's a few figures on that list that we might get. JD says, great video. With the 50th anniversary of Star Wars coming in 2027, do you think we'll have to wait until then for the New Hope Heroes / Cantina, or do you think we might get them before then? Thanks. I think the Cantina is anybody's guess. I don't really know. In terms of the heroes, I think the community have made enough noise around those and made it pretty clear that we want those in the line. So I don't think we're going to have to wait until 2027 for those. I would hope that we'd get, you know, at least one or two of them next year, maybe. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? So hopefully they've been listening and that's what will happen. Dorfid says, question, if you believe, and some others do, that TVC should be realistic versions of the cartoon characters, do you think Hasbro should finish the Clone Wars collection and or start a new animated line to include Rebels with the final Clone Wars figures? Or is this something that could be done as exclusives? If Rebels crew were done looking like cartoon on TVC cards, unnumbered cards, but were Hasbro Pulse exclusive or similar, would that be acceptable? So there's a lot to unpack in that question. The first thing is exclusives. I would never advocate more exclusives, you know, especially to Hasbro Pulse, because not everybody in the world can get Hasbro Pulse exclusive. So that isn't something that I'd want. And to be honest, I think, you know, when it comes to cartoon characters, you know, you're saying cartoon on TVC cards, but unnumbered. I don't think so, no. You know, in terms of animated style characters, I really don't think they should be in the vintage collection. The vintage collection, you know, Kenner style cards should be realistic figures or realistic interpretations of animated characters. And therefore, if that's the case, the only way to get them out would be, as you say, maybe to create an animated line. But I'm against that as well, because, you know, I don't want Hasbro to have too many lines going on at the same time, because at the end of the day, all it'll do is take budget away from what most of us watching this channel really want, which is your vintage collection figures. So unfortunately, in terms of finishing the Clone Wars in animated style and having Rebels characters and things like that in a separate line, I'm personally not for that. I just want new media, original trilogy, prequel trilogy characters on vintage style cards, and then the animated ones are made to look realistic as best as they possibly can. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's video. Don't forget to make sure you hit subscribe and the little notification bell so you are notified about future videos, which will include a video about the giveaway. So it will be a video that is specifically about the giveaway, where I will be giving away a vintage collection speeder bike and Endor bunker. There'll be 2 prizes, so make sure you check that out in the near future. Should be in the next week or so. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Hit the like button if you have enjoyed the video, and we shall see you on the next one.